Everybody wants to fix their throw, and in darts there is always advice available. Coaches, players, YouTube videos, technical breakdowns. But if you watch enough, one strange thing can happen. Instead of becoming cleaner, your throw can feel even more confusing. And by the way, is there such a thing as an ideal throw? Like everyone who makes a real effort to improve, I have gone through my own journey with this. Today I'm going to share what I currently believe matters in my throw, and what I've learned to worry about a little less. This is Darts is Fun, let's throw! Back in 2020, I got pulled into darts by watching Peter Wright win the World Championship. He looked confident, calm, and his throw seemed completely effortless. Almost like he was just placing the darts into the board. Of course, I wanted to do the same. So after trying a couple basic sets, I bought his World Champion darts and decided to learn his throw. Not his mindset, rhythm, or practice routine, just the visible part, the movement. And of course, my darts did not land like his, not even close. But I kept doing it for a while. And I also copied another Peter Wright habit, buying new sets and accessories again and again. A bit later I also started to look at other elite players' throws like MVG or Adrian Lewis. I had no idea what actually I should look for, but I wanted to copy the great looking parts. A mix of the throws of the best players in the world? That cannot go wrong, right? I made some progress, I could win some games, but I did not really feel the consistency for the first couple of years. Then I found a guy on YouTube called Daniel Poole, also known as Straight to the Point, and that changed something important for me. His approach also resonated with my engineering mind, so I started to look at my throw like a faulty machine, how to fix it, how to eliminate losses. I started to collect data and facts, which meant recording my throw and analyzing every tiny part of it. I've also invested a lot of money in cameras and tools to reach the best possible accuracy. Looking at the videos, I saw plenty of problems like dropping elbow or improper follow-through, which I had never noticed before. In one way it was great, because finally I had something concrete to work with. But the real issue came with the next step, how to make these better. My way was to try to fix it immediately, then record again and check if it works any better. Over and over again. I was not only practicing my throw anymore, I was constantly questioning it. Misalignment is not that difficult to see on a video. The hard part is changing it, because the body doesn't work like a machine. You cannot just adjust a setting and expect the issue to disappear. Especially if, like me, you spend the first years mostly throwing by instinct. It can work for a while, but later those habits are much harder to change. There are some technical foundations I probably should have respected earlier. It is way more difficult to unlearn bad habits and relearn the good ones like I'm trying to do now. For my own throw, I keep coming back to 4 principles. All of them aim towards a common goal, which is repeatability. And for me that comes from simplicity. Whenever I think about changing something in my throw, I try to ask one question first. Does it make the throw easier to repeat, or is it just adding one more moving part? Because the more complicated the throw becomes, it is harder to repeat under pressure. The first one is steadiness, reducing the unnecessary movement as much as possible, so only the forearm and the wrist is doing the most of the work. I believe complete steadiness in every situation is almost impossible, but my goal is to strive for it. The second one is keeping a clean throwing line. I want the dart to travel as naturally as possible on the line between my dominant eye and the target. The more direct the throw feels, the easier it is for me to trust it. The third is follow-through, which for me is not about making the throw look beautiful. It is about allowing the throw to finish naturally. The fourth one is throwing pace. I want a rhythm I can repeat, especially under pressure. Not too rushed, not too forced, and not something what depends on perfect timing. So I care about these principles the most, but this is also where the danger starts. Because even good rules can become harmful if I expect my throw to become flawless. One example in my own throw is my elbow movement during pullback. For a long time I looked at it as a huge technical mistake, something ugly, something that shouldn't be there. Because if you watch a clean throw in slow motion, everything seems so simple. The arm goes back, the arm goes forward, the dart goes straight. So when I watched my own throw, my first reaction was, this has to be fixed. And of course I tried it. I tried to keep the elbow more stable, pull the dart back cleaner, and make it look like the throw I had in my head. But the more I tried to remove completely, the more tension I created somewhere else. It could look cleaner in video for a few visits, but under pressure the old movement came back. And this is where I had to ask myself a better question. Is this movement actually destroying my throw? Or am I feeling just uncomfortable because it looks bad on the video? Because there is a difference between a flaw, what costs you a dart, and a flaw, what bothers you because you just noticed it. That doesn't mean that I ignore it. I still work on it. I still try to reduce the effect of it. But I no longer treat it like the one thing that must disappear before I can play good darts. Maybe because of my cross dominance, or how my body naturally finds the line to the target, but this movement is now part of my throw. So instead of fighting it every single session, I try to manage it. Can I make it smaller, time it better, and still release the dart on the same line? That became much more useful than chasing a completely clean picture. And for me, that was one of the biggest mindset changes. The goal is not to build a throw that looks nice in slow motion. The goal is to build a throw that I understand, that I can repeat, that I can trust when the game becomes real. Another thing what makes technique so complicated is that it doesn't exist separately from mental state. At least not for me. When I feel calm, focused and confident, the throw can feel so simple. But when I feel frustrated, tired, impatient, every small detail starts to look suspicious. A low dart becomes a force problem. A dart to the left becomes an elbow problem. And that can be very misleading. Of course, sometimes the technical problem is real, like the rhythm is off or the follow-through gets lazy. But sometimes the issue is much smaller than the emotional reaction around it. Earlier, this was one of my biggest traps. I had a bad session, watched couple throws on video, found something which was not perfect and immediately connected the two things. Bad result plus visible flaw equals technical problem. But this is not always the truth. Sometimes the same flaw was already there when I played well. Sometimes the movement did not change at all, only my confidence did. And when I diagnose my throw from a bad mental state, I tend to exaggerate the size of the problem. Then after a while, I'm not really practicing anymore. I'm just searching for relief. So today I try to be much more careful when I analyze my throw. Instead of reacting to one bad session, I try to look at the big picture. Because if I keep changing things all the time, I never really get to practice the throw itself. Very often the answer is not technical at all. A short break or reset and the same throw can suddenly look completely different. This is why I don't want to judge technique by just short-term results. The real question is whether the movement is repeatable and whether I can trust it when the game becomes uncomfortable. For me that was a big shift. Instead of asking after every bad session, what should I fix now? I try to ask, is this a real technical problem or am I just reacting to discomfort? Because darts has a funny way of making small problems look huge when we are not mentally ready for them. So how do I practice technique now? Much less dramatically than before. Earlier I started a session with one technical idea and then found 3 more things to fix in 10 minutes. Now I try to do it differently. If I work on technique, I choose one priority, not 5, just 1. Because if I change too many things at the same time, I no longer know what actually helped and what made it worse. And I try to do it in a short but regular activity at the end of the practice sessions. Throwing for like 15 minutes on the trebles with this special focus. And one good session doesn't mean that the fix is solved. Also, one bad session doesn't mean that it failed. With technique, I need to give the body the time to understand what I'm asking from it. And this is also why I separate technical practice from performance sessions. If I'm doing scoring drills, playing legs or preparing for a match, that is not the moment to rebuild my throw. Because if I'm doing so, I would no longer be playing darts. I would run a live engineering test while trying to hit the doubles. So for me, technique work has its own place. Short sessions, one priority, low pressure. Enough repetition to let the body learn. Working on throw-in technique is probably a never-ending story. And I still believe we should work on it if we want to become a better player. But I also believe that perfect technique is not necessary to play good darts. Poor performance is not always technical. It can also come from frustration or simply not being mentally prepared for the moment. So maybe the target is not a flawless throw. It is a throw that is simple enough to repeat, honest enough to understand, and stable enough to trust. If you find these videos useful, please like and leave a comment. Also, feel free to challenge my thoughts. And always remember, darts is fun, watch and play every day. Cheers!